Hi, it's Lisa Cuneo. Welcome to my scrapbook table. Today's layout is covering a lot of different challenges or that sort of thing that I'm working on. I have two photos. One is of some flowers. That post-it note is a note my husband wrote me, and you'll hear more about that. I took a picture of it though and printed it in black and white since the bright pink wasn't going to work. I have some fiber, and that came from a store called Hollow's Paper Crafts, kind of famous here in Ohio. Those are the four colors of ink that I'm using. I'll tell you about those later. I have some modeling paste and a stencil, and I have these papers that were on the Stampin' Up! Clearance rack. I bought them a couple weeks ago when I was looking for some other things on there, and I just loved the colors. And as I was looking through photos, I saw this one and I'm like, hey, that matches those colors. So I'm using this stamp. It's an old Stampin' Up! One. It's called, I think it's called Medallion. I bought it secondhand at Hollow's, and I've been using it for mixed media. So the mixed media recipe is stamping, torn paper, and a wet medium. So I'm hoping my texture paste counts as wet medium. Since I had to wait for it to dry, I decided it could be wet medium. I'm using Stampin' Up! Powder Pink ink there, Evergreen Bough, and Spice Marmalade, both from Distress Oxide. Then I used some soft suede from Stampin' Up! Around the edges. I wanted a very subtle pattern on my paper, and so I just inked this up using some sponge daubers and put it down on the paper. I do wish I had planned better because the stamping that I did on the right ends up covered up. I wish I had done that a little higher on the page so that it would show up more. But I didn't, and that's okay. It's still really pretty, and I still love the page. I also am using a sketch from Miranda Weber. Her website and YouTube channel are My Scrappy Life. And she has 3 volumes of sketches for sale on her website. And this sketch that I'm basing this layout from is from volume 2. And I will try to remember to link her shop below so that if you're interested, you could go and buy those. Most of her sketches have 1 or 2 photos. I usually have more than that, but I find that it's really easy to add a photo or 2 to her sketches. So they're really versatile, and I appreciate that about them. I don't know where I got this stencil, but it's one of my favorites. I think I bought it when I was taking a class from MK Gunn and Janet Fritz about mixed media, and I just really like it. I went with a very light coating because I want to finish this layout before I have to leave the house today. So I want it to dry. Meanwhile, while it was drying, there was still ink on that medallion stamp, so I sprayed it with water, put this cardstock on it, and I need a birthday card for a friend today. So I cut out a message from the 3x4 cards from this texture chic papers from Stampin' Up! And it said thinking of you, and I added a stamp in brown that said birthday, and then I hand wrote on your. So the sentiment on the card reads, thinking of you on your birthday. And I think it turned out really pretty. I bumped that up on some fun foam. And I try to use both adhesives when I use fun foam. I don't really know why, but it just seems the thing to do. And there it is. And I really like that card. It turned out so pretty. And it took me just a couple of minutes. And now, this is actually dry enough for me to work on. So here's where I decide to ink the edges, but I don't have you watch all of that. I believe I cut that footage out pretty quickly. Yes, there I did. And now I'm fussy cutting. I actually ended up fussy cutting 2 of the 4x6 cards from the Stampin' Up! Pack. I wanted these flowers as an element on my page, but I didn't want it to be a rectangle. So I just took a couple minutes and did the fussy cutting. I wish I actually had a third one of those, but that's okay. I ended up making it stretch into 3 places on the layout. I wanted that green color that I cut off of the flowers to be the matte for this smaller photo. And I didn't have a rectangle, but I just used 2 halves and pieced it together. There was a time when I would not have done that. It would have bothered me. And now it just doesn't. I've seen enough people doing it, and I realize on their page, it doesn't make any difference that there's a little seam. Nobody pays attention. And in fact, unless you knew when you look at this layout, you would never be able to tell. So I just pieced it together and it worked out fine. And eventually I also put a brown mat behind that photo as well. And I tore the edge of the paper underneath the photo, and now I'm using 2 of the 4x6 cards to tear and make a border for along the bottom. Since I don't have 12-inch pieces, I have to piece it together, but again, you really don't notice when you look at this layout. There's one place that it kind of shows up, but I think once it's in a page protector and someone's flipping through the album, you won't really see it. I kind of wish I had inked those edges before I put them down, but alas, I did not, so they'll just be what they are. So I think about putting them this way. In the end, I move them around. And here's where I decide, yeah, this smaller photo needs the brown behind it to help it stand out a little bit from that busy, pretty background that it's going to be on. And I tore the bottom edge of that one as well. And you can see at the top there where I have the other floral piece that I fussy cut, I put part of it up there on that half medallion, and I used part of it somewhere else. So that's where I'm going to put the photos. And here's the ribbon or fiber that I'm using, and that's for a challenge from Debbie Sanders at Scrapbook Generation. She has a weekly challenge. I sewed the ribbon on, and halfway through it ran out of bobbin. And then as I tried to fill the bobbin, or just replace the bobbin with another one that was filled, now the needle is completely stuck. And this is my daughter's sewing machine. Sewing machines and I do not get along well. And I knew I was taking a risk trying to do that when she was not home to be my backup. And so now the needle thing is completely stuck. And I've got to find somewhere to take this sewing machine and really hope they can repair it. I decide to pop this one floral piece up on fun foam. So gives my page some dimension in addition to the paper layers and the texture paste. And there we go. And I just noticed for that one I only used glue. I didn't use both adhesives. So maybe it just depends where my brain is at the time. And here's the other half of what I cut away from the top. And where you see it now is where it ends up, but I try several other places before I finally make up my mind. If you're interested in the mixed medium Mayhem, I don't have a link. I'm not sure there is a list of everybody who participates because it's just kind of random. There are some people who just, like me, who just do it once in a while. But there is a Facebook page that you can join and see what people are doing with mixed media. And usually it's every Friday. And now I'm deciding I want some more paper behind that smaller photo. So I just cut a corner of this and tuck it in there. These colors are just so pretty. And I actually found 2 12x12 sheets of pattern paper in my stash from K & Company that actually coordinate really well. So I decided I pulled those and I'm going to store them together for the next time I want to use this collection. So now I'm doing some journaling. It says, I found this post-it note on my steering wheel on our 32nd anniversary, and I kept it there for months. It still means the world to me. And up at the top, or above one of the photos, I have the date of the photo, which was, and the note, which was July of 2020. But below my journaling, I also put today's date, and there is where I'm doing the math to figure out what anniversary that was. And since I was writing about this, it just seemed right to put today's date with it, even though the photos are from a while ago. And the sticker that I added up there says, I'll look back on this and smile. And I've already looked back on this and smiled many, many times. I kept it in a lunch tote for a long time so that I would see it, and it's special to me. I really like it. And on a funny note, just tonight when Dan looked at the layout, he said, I never realized before, but I wrote the word is twice on there. And all the times that I have read that, I never noticed. Never noticed until he said that today. So I decided to use some clear Nuvo drops to enhance the centers of the flowers. I scattered some sequins and glued them on. And then I remembered some flair that I have. I bought this, I'm pretty sure I bought this from Some Assemblage Required, MK's shop, but I don't think she designed it. I think she carried someone else's. I could be wrong, and I'm sorry that I can't give credit to whoever created this, but they're pretty thick, so I decided to flatten them in my die cut machine. I just put them through my plates and ran them through, and then I put some Stampin' Dimensionals behind them, and so they still add some different texture, but they're not quite so big. I just stick my tweezers down in there and yank that thing out, then run them through the die cut machine, and here I'm pulling the backing off of that adhesive. And I think I actually might put one more, now that I'm looking at the layout, up in the top embellishment cluster as well. Still shots are coming up. Thanks for joining me. Have a great day.